Okay, our first video is on graphing and solving inequalities day 1. An inequality is a statement that two quantities are not equal. So in this chapter, you're not going to see equal signs. You're going to see these kind of things. So you might see this, you might see this, or this, or this. Okay, so hopefully those look familiar. This one looks like an L, so we call it less than. And when it's less than, let's say the problem was x is less than 3. You would put an open circle and the arrow goes left because less means numbers left on the number line. And an open circle means you don't want it to be 3. You only want things smaller than 3. So that's what the open circle says. Now this one says greater than. And let's say the problem said x is greater than 3. That would also be an open circle, but the arrow would go right because on the number line, greater means bigger and to the right. Still an open circle because we don't want it to equal 3. We just want ones bigger. And then this one is very close to this one, so it's less than, but that extra dash means or equal to. Less than or equal to. Okay, so it's going to be the same thing as this one. Let's say it said x is less than or equal to 3, but instead of an open circle, now that we're saying it could be equal, we're going to do a closed circle. But less than still means arrow out to the left. And then similarly, this one is just like this one, but it's greater than or equal is okay. Greater than or equal to. So if it said x is greater than or equal to 3, it would still be closed because they're saying 3 is okay, but then also greater would be off to the right. Okay, so now we're going to practice having you guys actually graph some of these. And things you have to be careful of are open circle, closed circle, and then if your arrow's going the right way. Okay, so I always like to make the circle first. If it's just greater than -2, that's an open circle. And greater means the arrow points to the right. A nice trick is whatever direction the symbol's facing, that's the same direction that the arrow's facing. Okay, number 2, x is less than or equal to 1. If it has that extra dash, it's automatically closed circle. And then less than, arrow's facing left, so your line arrow is also facing left. And then 3 and 4 are opposite. If I give you a graph, can you write the inequality? So you're always going to start by writing x. I mean, you guys can put whatever letter you want, but I'm just going to do x. And then we need to write the number and the symbol. Okay, so this one's at 8, so I'm going to put an 8. And this one is at -3, so I'm going to put a -3. Now this arrow is facing left, so I'm going to put a left or less than sign. And then this arrow is facing right, so I'm going to put a right facing arrow. Now, be careful. This one's also filled in. If it's filled in, you got to put that extra dash. Now, this one was not filled in, so we do not put the extra dash. All right, now we're going to talk about solving. And you know what? Solving inequalities is the same thing as solving equations, which you guys were really good at, except there's one rule, and we'll talk about why tomorrow. The one rule is you must switch the symbol if you multiply or divide by a negative number. Again, I'll explain that more in class. But whenever you multiply or divide by a negative, you must flip the symbol. All right, so I want to do a quick review of how to solve an equation, and then solving an inequality is the same thing. So first step is you always distribute if there are any parentheses. You always look to do that first. Next step is combine any like terms. Combine like terms if they're on the same side of the symbol. So if on same side of symbol. Inequality symbol. And then you're going to do that whole movement where we're going to get all the variables on one side and all the constants to the other side. And then once you're there, don't forget to flip the symbol if you multiply or divide by a negative. So flip the symbol if you multiply or divide by a negative number. It's only if you multiply and divide, and it's only if it's a negative number. And lastly, number 5 is just graph. Graph it. And then we don't have 6 steps. We can do it in 5. Okay, so I just want to do a couple solving, and then we'll practice tomorrow. So just a reminder, when we start solving, it's going to be an open circle if it's strictly less than or strictly greater than. And it's going to be a closed circle if you see that extra or equal to. Less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. That's when you close it in. All right, so let's try some. So first you're going to draw your wall, right? Just like solving equations. This one, there is nothing to distribute. There's no parenthesis. There are no like terms here or here. So we're going to skip steps 1 and 2. Now we're ready to start moving. Get all the variables on one side and all the constants to the other side. So I see a negative 3x, so I think I'm going to add that to the other side. Okay, so they cancel, and now we're at 5 is less than or equal to 13 plus 4x. Now, if I got all the constants to the right, no, all the variables to the right, I need to move this constant to the left. So I do that by subtracting 13 from both sides. And they cancel. Remember these? We're good at these. 5 minus 13 is negative 8 is less than or equal to 4x, and I should have written smaller. To officially get x alone, we're going to divide by positive 4, divide by positive 4, and our answer is negative 2 is less than or equal to x. Now, notice I did not flip the symbol because we divided by a positive 4. It doesn't matter that this is negative. It's whatever you divided by. And then something I like to do, when my x ends up on the right-hand side, I like to switch it and put it on the left-hand side. But when I switch the order, I also have to switch the symbol. So negative 2 is less than or equal to x is the same thing as saying x is greater than or equal to negative 2. This is easier to graph because when it's written this way, the arrow goes the same way that the sign goes. So that's a closed circle at negative 2. And greater than, it goes to the right. I worry that if you guys don't do that, you're going to think the arrow goes left. So always make sure the x is written on the left-hand side. All right, let's try a couple more. We're not going to do all these. Just do a couple. Let's try number 1. Why not? Draw your wall. No distributing, no like terms. We're ready to start moving stuff. So to move a -5, we +5 +5, right? And these cancel. We get x is greater than 2. And this one was super easy. You are done. So open circle at 2, and the arrow goes right. All right, let's try one like number 4. Draw the wall. What do you guys have to do to get x alone on this one? So how do you undo dividing by -3? Well, we have to multiply by -3 and multiply by -3. Okay, so these cancel. Now be careful. When you multiply or divide by a negative, you must switch the symbol around. It flips. And we're left with x is less than -6. And then when you graph that, that's an open circle at -6, and the arrow goes left. And let's try one more with distributing this time, number 6. Okay, so first step, you always want to distribute first. So we're at 2x minus 10 is less than or equal to 4, and then draw your wall. We're going to get the variables on one side and the constants on the other. So I'm going to add 10, add 10. We're left with 2x is less than or equal to 14. Divide by 2, divide by 2. X is less than or equal to 7. And that'll be a closed circle at 7, and the arrow goes left. Okay, so I think we did one of each. If you guys want to stop the video now, go ahead. I'll do one more just as a little check. So let's do number 8. Why not? But feel free to stop. I know I went a little over time here. All right, no distributing, no like terms. Let's get all the x's to one side. So I'm going to minus 2x minus 2x. And then we're at 4x minus 7 is greater than 17. If the variables are on the left, then the constants go to the right. So we're going to add 7, and you're left with 4x is greater than 24. And then to officially get x alone, divide by 4, divide by 4. Do not switch the symbol because we divided by a positive. So x is greater than 6. And that would be an open circle, and arrow goes right. All right, thanks for watching, guys. We will practice and explain a little more of why we flip the symbol tomorrow.